smaller than those of the Longhouse people and thus easier to raid. "We should raid them," Grabber said, "because they have not traded fairly with us." Even though Grabber's statement was not true, Greasy Hair agreed loudly. "Hang," he said. "When will we make the raid on their village?" asked a third person's voice. From his hiding place under the shelf of rock, Ohkwa'ri could not see that person. Grabber was sitting right in front of the cave, and his back blocked Ohkwa'ri's view of the others. But he recognized the slow, growling voice. It was Eats Like a Bear, the biggest of all the young men in the village, and another of Grabber's 3 constant companions. Now, Ohkwa'ri thought, Falls-a-Lot will ask that same question if he is also here. Sure enough, the next voice to speak was that of the rather slow-thinking young man who almost always repeated the same questions asked by his friends. "Yes," said the voice of Falls-a-Lot. "When will we make the raid on their village?" Grabber looked around. For a moment his eyes rested on the hidden entrance of the cave, and Ohkwa'ri's heart beat faster. Ohkwa'ri remembered a story that Ojitjia had told him during the winter, the story of a boy who accidentally overheard a group of two-hearted people who had made an old man sick through their bad magic. The two-hearted people did not see that boy hidden in the spruce tree, Ohkwa'ri thought. So Grabber will not see me here. He will look away. Grabber looked back toward his friends. "We will make the raid while the festival to thank the strawberries is going on. While the people are dancing, we will strike the enemy." When the 4 young men had gone back down the hill, Ohkwa'ri came out of his cave. He was very troubled by the words they had spoken. It was true that the Onondagas were a different nation. It was true that they spoke a language strange to the people of the Flint Nation, but it was also true that they were now at peace. Once the Onondagas had been their enemies, but now the people of the Flint Nation often traded with them. Each year, after the corn harvest, people from Ohkwa'ri's village would travel to the meeting place on the other side of the big south-flowing river, Skanedade Gahunda, the river beyond the openings. The one in particular that they liked were the fine canoes of birch bark made by the Onondagas. In the old days, before meeting the Onondagas, the canoes of the 5 nations of the Longhouse people had always been made of elm bark. The Onondagas taught them how to make birch bark canoes, yet even though they knew how to make canoes of birch bark, it seemed as if the most beautiful and the finest canoes were always made by the Onondaga people themselves. Although they would never be as close to Ohkwa'ri's people as the 4 nations which, with his Flint Nation people, made up their great League of Peace, the Onondagas respected the people of the Flint Nation and honored the peace. Until now, all the people of the Flint Nation had returned that respect and kept that peace. Ohkwa'ri thought he understood why those 3 other young men were in agreement with Grabber's plan. They were impatient. They had not been successful in gaining the respect they thought they deserved. It seemed clear that none of them would ever be a loiane, a leader of men, or a faith-keeper. Nor was it likely that any of them would ever become a pine tree chief, chosen to sit in council with the loiane. There was no sign that Grabber or any of the others who followed his lead were wise enough or careful enough to hold such a position of honor. So they had decided to make their names by doing great deeds in a war that no one else wanted. The words that Grabber had spoken continued to trouble Ohkwa'ri as he walked across the hill toward the strawberry fields, where he knew his sister and the other women would still be gathering berries. The festival to thank the strawberries would begin the next morning. His own first impulse was to find the 4 larger boys and confront them. He would tell Grabber and his friends that their hot-headed idea was wrong. No one should break the great peace without a good reason or go to war without the agreement of all the people. But then Ohkwa'ri remembered what his twin sister had told him just the day before. "Brother," Ojitjia had said.